So this is Fraser. He is from my last video. He is one of my newer client horses that came in, and today I'm introducing ground driving to him. This is something I do to prep all my horses for getting started under saddle because they learn about bit pressure and it makes the first ride so much less confusing for them because doing this prep work on the ground kind of sets them up to have a better understanding of what you're asking when you're up there. I'm starting him out on a basic walk circle. He's not really feeling much pressure on his bit other than that left rein tugging him every once in a while to keep him on a circle. And I start them out with the other line, so the opposite line, going across their back. Some of them are pretty reactive when it goes behind their butt and on their back legs. He's not really that type of horse, but no matter what, no matter how they react, no matter what they're like, they all start out with that line over their back instead. So my first time asking him to stop, the first thing he wants to do is turn and face me. And this is the first time he's felt pressure like that, so I'm not going to get after him. I'm just going to straighten him out a little bit. Instead of stopping him as soon as he moved forward, I let him get that forward rhythm again. He was straightened out at this point, and then I decided to re-ask for the halt, and he did it really well. He did take his head and look at me, but that's no big deal. This time when I ask for the halt, as soon as I release pressure, he wants to move forward. So all I'm going to do is correct him by stopping him, releasing, and just keep taking him back until he'll stop and wait. And then once he stops and he doesn't move forward, he can actually be cued to walk. Since he's starting to get comfortable with everything, I start bringing that rope over his haunches and behind his back legs. And other than a little bit of an initial nervousness, he did really well with it and he did not mind it at all. And it's the same thing as last time when I ask him to halt and release, he wants to walk forward on his own. So just like before, I'm just going to keep going over it until he waits, until I cue him to walk. And it's really just going back and forth until he relaxes and waits. So now I'm going to bring him out of this circle and go into the actual technical ground driving part. As I take him towards the rail, I bring my body to be standing and walking behind him. And usually horses get pretty nervous about this position, but he handled it really well. He stayed pretty relaxed and he didn't seem to mind whatsoever. And so now we're going to work on our steering, stopping, forward movement with me behind him instead of keeping him on that circle. So in this clip, he's a lot more feisty and spunky than he usually is. When we came to that frame, he had a little bit of attitude. And then when I go to ask him to halt, he wants to fight it a lot. He's trying to evade the pressure as much as he can, going all over the place. So I'm just going to straighten him out and stop him. And he's going to keep feeling that pressure until he stops and waits patiently. So here I tried to take him off the rail a little bit and he got really stuck and confused. So all I really did was use my reins to help straighten him out. And when he gets wiggly or wobbly, I just kind of help guide him and show him what he needs to do. And then he gets that forward movement again and figures it out. So right here, I'm asking him to turn and change directions from the standstill all I'm doing is putting pressure, and I'm using my voice, and also I use the outside rein to give him a little bit more of a push. And that's a lot more difficult for him to comprehend because he's used to me steering him when he's actually having a lot of forward movement. And now I'm kind of bringing him back and forth when he's slowed down or stopped. So he's going to get a little bit confused and disoriented at first, but he'll figure it out pretty quickly. Now to really work and develop his steering, I'm just going to be doing a bunch of figure eights and loops and turns, circles, just doing a bunch of different little exercises that gets him soft in the bit and used to steering pressure. This is just going to help so much, and when you get on him, he's not going to know much about leg pressure, obviously, but when it comes to the bit and knowing when to stop, steer, all those little pressure points, he's going to have it figured out so much easier, and it'll just make that first initial ride and everything to come so much easier for him because he's going to understand what I'm asking. So for his first day ground driving, he did really good. He went through all my initial exercises that I like to cover. I keep them at a walk on that first day, so to not run into any confusion. It's already a lot to take in, so I just worked on walking, developed steering, and a good stop, and he did really, really well. So on his second day of ground driving, I bring in the saddle, and to avoid stirrups going all over the place, they get tied underneath him, so each stirrup's connected. And this is going to be a lot different for him because instead of just a surcingle, he's going to have the pressure of a saddle, and there's going to be a lot more weight on him. So because yesterday he learned about having the rope over his back legs and behind his haunches, I right away start out with that. And as you can see, he's initially kind of wobbly, but I just straighten him out. And then once he starts getting that forward movement, he pretty much has it figured out and he has it under control. On the second day, I pretty much cover all of the same things as the first day, but I do introduce trotting with the ground lines, and I usually trot them on a circle because running behind them in this round pen is not the most fun. So I'm just going to go over the trotting with the second day clips because pretty much everything was the same that we did yesterday. So this first time I asked him to halt from the trot, he was actually really responsive and did really well, but clearly he caught me off guard and started trying to walk forward again, which was the same problem as the day prior. So he's going to need a little bit of correction to kind of get that out of the way. We don't want that. We want him to only walk forward after he halts when he's cued. So we're going to have to do a little bit of correction to kind of keep that in his mind. This second time asking for the halt, he stopped really well, and I released pressure and he did not want to move forward. He stood perfectly still, which is amazing. He clearly just needed that one correction the first time. Now I'm asking him for a little bit of a backup. He is not expected to know about bit pressure for the backup, so what I'll do is I'll release after 1 or 2 steps, just because they can't be expected to give you a whole ton of backing up. It's not going to be fast, it's not going to be soft, super responsive. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle, but they're not going to learn unless you release when they do give a little bit of try. Fraser's second session with ground driving really wasn't that long. He did have a bit of a groundwork session before I introduced the ground lines today. And like I said, we only did a little bit of trotting. He got to learn the gist of backup. And for the most part, everything else was going over what we worked on yesterday. So his second day wasn't super full of hard work. It was just a little bit of introducing new stuff and then going over prior exercises. And he did really well. He wasn't nearly as confused as the day before. He kind of retained everything I taught him, and he did really, really well holding that. So I was really proud of him for that. And just as a bonus for the end of this video, here is Fraser in the beginning of his session before he did a bunch of groundwork. He is very bronchi with the back cinch. Those first 5 times he was saddled, this is what I would deal with in the beginning. So all I do is keep him moving forward. I want forward movement, and then he gets it out of his system, and I'll ask him to stop and reward him. But once he does stop bucking, I do make him move forward for a little while. But he's now past all the bucking. It was just fun to deal with the first 5 times. Luckily, after 5 sessions, he was done with it. He got some sense, and I'm really proud of him for getting over that, because I've had quite a few Mustangs that hold on to that feeling and reaction for quite a long time.